If you've persevered, done all the hard work, worked through the stress, anxiety, and potentially fear of putting a resume together, and then you sent it out, great job. But there's a problem. Crickets. If you're not getting any responses on your resume submissions or very poor quality responses, we need to talk about it in today's episode. Number 199. What's wrong with my resume? Stay tuned. I was an engineer and in 2008 lost my job due to the economic collapse. Jobs were scarce. I didn't know where to turn to get help updating my resume. Online services and coaches charge hundreds, even thousands of dollars. I took matters into my own hands and learned how to craft interview-winning resumes. Shortly later, I landed a job with a Fortune 500 company. I've helped many achieve similar success. Now I share my tips to create interview-winning resumes, interviewing excellence, and high-performance growth strategies on my podcast, Career Growth Made Easy. Hey there, it's Craig Ansell, and you're listening to the Career Growth Made Easy podcast. We're rolling up to episode 199 today, and I think that it's going to be a great one to help you if you've ever struggled with putting your resume together, or now that you've got it together, you're just not getting the feedback that you're looking for. Today's show is What's Wrong with My Resume? Dun dun dun. Okay. I know I don't have a great band behind me, but that was my attempt at some musical humor there. So, I'm not suggesting that something is wrong with your resume, but if you would consider, indulge me just for a little bit. You've worked through, you've done the research, you've put your content together, you've structured it, formatted it, hopefully laid it out on your resume as absolutely best you can. You may have done it on your own. Maybe you've used a template you found online, or possibly you hired a resume coach. And if so, great job. I hope you got a qualified candidate, rather a qualified coach, and someone that was able to work with you, was compatible, and you feel that you're going to be getting results with. Now, here's the next thing we have to deal with. We have to address why. Why is your resume not getting the feedback, not getting the interview opportunities that you'd like? Are you fishing in the wrong pond? Have you put out your resume to companies that potentially you're not qualified for? That's always an opportunity. There's always an area there that could be a concern. It could be a challenge that you've said, man, I feel real confident about myself. I'm really glad I got my resume together, but maybe you're reaching too far. Many times that is not the case, though. Many times, with some due diligence, you read the job description and you feel in your gut that you're aligned for it. So what's the next best thing to do? You got it. Submit your resume that you've worked on and put the hard sweat equity into. And that's a great thing to celebrate, by the way, completing your resume and secondarily getting the energy up, the stamina, the confidence, and just sending it in, submitting it. There might be a little fear, a little intrepidation or concern when you press that enter or that cloud button, submit, upload. But nonetheless, you've done it. And then you wait, potentially by your cell phone, for a text, a call, maybe an email, and crickets. Days go by, potentially weeks, and you're not hearing back. All right, well, maybe they didn't get it. Maybe they got another qualified candidate or two, or maybe my resume just wasn't up to speed. It wasn't up to snuff. So that leaves you in a quandary. With very little to no feedback, you're not sure what to do. So we wonder, what could be wrong with our resume? You know what? That company there, I really didn't want to work there anyway. I mean, initially the job sounded great, but I wasn't really thrilled with the hours. I did like what I wanted to do, but just not with the hours there. And if they're not going to call me back, let's skip it. Let's move on. Forget about them. Okay. You brush off your shoulders. You say, okay, I've got it here. The dust is gone. I'm not going to settle in and be disappointed. I'm going to go ahead and move forward. And you apply for another job or two. Does your history, does the output change? Or do you still see the same thing? Do you still see the same thing? You're repeating history. And that repetition is lack of responses, lack of callbacks from an interview. That could be a concern. So that leads you to think further and dive deeper and think further. What could be wrong with me, or what could be wrong with my resume? And there truly could be a problem. Sometimes we don't recognize the obvious signs to professionals that are interviewing experts, that are human resource professionals, that are hiring managers, and even recruiters. Sometimes our resumes can have telltale signs of things that shouldn't be present or that are turnoffs to those people I mentioned. And simply, as a novice resume creator or writer yourself, someone that does it once, twice, a couple times in your lifetime, it's certainly understandable you don't know the content, the structure, maybe the font type, what people are looking for. There's one further thing to talk about what could be wrong with a resume. You actually could have decent content on your resume, and it might even be aligned with the job application, the job description that you've applied for. But it could be the structure of your resume or potential content on it, such as graphics or charts, that could be causing a problem. You might have put some of those things on there, let's say graphics, an image, a chart, because you wanted to catch someone's eye. And that's great thinking, especially if you've been listening to my other shows. You'll know that's one of the things we talk about, having the resume catch the eye's attention, catch it for the right reasons. However, if you put the incorrect type of content on your resume, you could be causing yourself a disservice and causing an issue. And that is this. Before your resume would have the opportunity to go in front of a human being and be viewed, many times companies now are using software tools called ATS. That's Applicant Tracking Systems or Applicant Tracking Software. You see, over the years, companies have received dozens, hundreds, and sometimes even thousands of applications. It may be for the same role or multiple resumes, hundreds, thousands have flooded in for multiple roles. Eventually, companies said, whoa, they're throwing up their hands. I don't care how many people are helping me sort through these resumes, whether it's in the human resource department, it's with a recruiter, it's a hiring manager, wherever the case may be, wherever you are in the food chain in that sequence, it's simply overwhelming. Then you throw in the fact that a company, a large corporation, could have a couple or even dozens of job postings, and they get flooded with resumes. How are they going to be sorted? How are they going to be classified? I think you see the problem there, right? We don't have the access to unlimited resources, unlimited people, unlimited funding, especially why? Because companies are hiring. They're short-staffed. They're looking for resources. They're looking for personnel. Even if they were to hire one or two, a couple more additional people in that hiring chain that I talked about, the interviewing chain, the review chain, it's not going to change the needle. When you add one or two people and you still have hundreds and potentially thousands of resumes per role, that can be overwhelming. Now, I went into detail on that, not because I'm looking for an excuse, but I want you to understand why ATS software came about. That applicant tracking software is what takes in a resume and sometimes a cover letter. It scans it kind of like OCR, optical character recognition, when we convert documents to PDF or Adobe format, and then we convert them back. We read the text out of that document. Hopefully it's legible to the software, and hopefully it can convert it properly and get viable content and data out of it. Many times your documents are submitted by, let's say, PDF, Doc, or DocX, such as a Word, Microsoft Word format. Other times there's certain other requirements. And by the way, as a bonus tip, I wasn't intending to share this today, but one of the number one reasons why you don't get callbacks from your resume submission is that job application processes and requirements are not followed. So make sure you read the job description to number one, make sure you're qualified, and number two, follow the job application process thoroughly, okay? There may be situations where the hiring company has a third party, such as a recruiter or other company, doing that the intake work. I was looking for that intake work. and they have certain processes or procedures that are in addition to or above and beyond the hiring company. So now you've got a third party involved, and there may be multiple sets of criteria to follow. I know, roll your eyes, Craig. It's way too much for me to handle. Look, if you're not willing to go that extra step, somebody else will be. And with that said, they're going to bump ahead of you in the resume submission process, the job application process. I'm trying to help you know where some of the common missteps are and what could be wrong with your resume or your resume submission. So bear with me. If you follow the application process and you meet the job requirements, you meet the application requirements, looking at the file type, file size, is there a particular structure you need to apply or template? Do those things. Send only what is required and do not send more, because part of the process to follow is send only what's required. If you send additional thinking, hey, I'm going to get above and beyond, I'm going to push myself in front of the competition, you may do the opposite and push yourself out of the competition. Part of the process is following instructions, especially if you're applying for a professional role, a leadership role, or a role heavy in detail. If you can't follow the process in a job application submission, they're not likely to think of you twice and interview you because you didn't have the right process followed when you applied for your job. So think about that just for a minute. Now, the next thing, what's wrong with my resume? Let's talk about the physical document itself. I'll share with you this. A resume has to be appealing to the eye. It's kind of like looking at something just for a brief 3 or 4 seconds, which is actually one of the processes we use. It's called resume scanning. Resume scanning. That is when somebody does not digest the content on it. You don't take the time to read it, process it, and think if if he or she is a good fit. What you're doing is scanning it. You're looking left to right in the English language and top down. Is it visually appealing? After that, is there a structure? What makes it visually appealing, by the way? An attractive font type, a font size, proper spacing and formatting, but also a structure so the individual sections are broken out. If any of those things are difficult to read on your resume, or if you put your resume down and ask a family member, friend, school colleague, coworker, hey, just take a quick look at this. You have 3 seconds. Boom. Whoa, what do you mean? I don't want you to read it. I just want your opinion. And what they're going to be able to do is form a graphic opinion, a visual opinion of your resume. From there, then, you'll get some feedback. Well, the font's too large, it feels overpowering. Or, you know what, it looks like you have a lot of experience, Craig, and you've used a really small font and just totally saturated the paper with information. That then would be the opposite of what we're looking for. It would be an eyesore. And this happens as you gain more experience in your industry, and that could be from physical experience in the work area, or it could be additional trainings you've had, certifications. Those things add up. That gives you a dense resume, and that's a good thing as long as you filter it down before submission. It's a lot better to have more and edit down than it is to have less and try to edit up, because you're going to be creating things that may not exactly be true, stretching facts, or repeating yourself when trying to fluff up and fill out your resume. There's an old saying in the industry, and I wish that I would have come up with this. I don't know if it would have made me any money, but I would at least been more well known for it, and it's this: less is more. So if you're going to do something such as create a resume, a cover letter, and even when you interview and speak, less is more. There's more value in using less words on paper and less words in speech. Less is more. Please remember that. So going back to what may be wrong with your resume, are you using the same resume for all your job applications? If so, that's a no-no. That is what I would call a generic resume, and most companies, hiring companies, all those people I mentioned, recruiters, etc., can see through that. So do yourself a favor. Once you've got a resume cleaned up, it looks professional, appealing to the eye in those areas I mentioned earlier, and a friend, colleague, family member gives it the thumbs up visually. Take some time and ask yourself, here I am applying for role number 1. What keywords, what phrases, what can I pull out to make it specific for them? If I do apply for roles 2, 3, and 4 with other companies, what can I change, even if so ever slightly, that will make it feel like it is customized and focused for them? Because I'll tell you this, if I didn't say these exact words earlier, hiring companies can see a generic resume a mile away, and you have a very low likelihood of being chosen for an interview, a callback, whatever you want to call it, if you use a generic resume. So number one, make your resume specific, even if you just tweak them a little bit. And number two, make sure they have a good visual appeal for the reasons that I mentioned earlier. So those could be some of the things that might be wrong with your resume if you're just not getting traction. The other thing is, are you really looking at the job applications? Make sure you're lined up with their requirements and also if they have any preferences. Once you've hit their requirements, thumbs up on that, big check mark, look at the preferences. If that's what they have for a preferred candidate, how do you stack up? Think about it this way. You've met the requirements. You're probably in, at least for a potentially resume scan, if not a resume read, may or may not be selected for an interview. But then these preferences they have, can you pull anything, and I mean anything, out of your early educational career, your work in the industry, maybe work at a different job, or do you volunteer at all in your community, society, church, school system? Have you volunteered even recently that would align with those preferences? If so, connect that with the job application, with the resume, with that hiring company, so that you have now a preference. Not only do you meet the requirements, but now you're actually a preferred candidate as long as you've written it well and connected it well. So that's kind of a bonus tip. So I hope that helps you when you're filling out your next resume or updating your current resume to look for those concerning areas and clean them up so you have greater success. If you've taken these points into serious note and you're going to work on your resume or make some changes, please let me know on social media at Craig Ansell, that's CraigAncel, on LinkedIn, Facebook, or Instagram, or Career Coach Craig on TikTok. I'd love to hear where you were and where you're going with these improvements to your resume. I know from some of my recent clients, it has made a massive change. Some of the clients have only been seeing a 3 or 5% hit rate on their resumes. And again, some of those weren't really good interviewing offers. They were more multi-level marketing. One recent client told me he was almost at 50%. That simply means for every 2 resume submissions for job applications, he's at least getting 1 callback. That is absolutely amazing. You may not get those exact same results, but even if you can increase your callback rate by single digits, low double digits, that's going to be a phenomenal change from where you are today. I hope you've enjoyed today's show. I'm Craig Ansell, and you're listening to the Career Growth Made Easy podcast as we close a landmark episode, number 199, because you know the big 200 anniversary is coming up next. Talk to you soon. God bless. Thanks for watching. If you've enjoyed this episode, be sure to subscribe to our channel. New episodes every Monday. In the meantime, why don't you follow us on social media at Craig Ansell on Facebook, LinkedIn, and Instagram. To book a coaching appointment, download our free guides, or join our email list, check out the links in the description below.